You believe power is built through presence, that to be seen, to remain visible, to stay at the center of attention is to grow in influence. But you are mistaken. A man is not respected because he stays. He is respected because he leaves before they expect it. Power decays when exposed too long to familiarity. The voice that once commanded silence becomes common. The face that once inspired fear becomes predictable. And the hand that once ruled becomes something others dare to challenge. Not because it is weaker, but because it is still here. You think you rise by showing more. But I tell you, the man who disappears at his peak becomes more feared than the man who stays to defend what he has already won. Respect does not rot when you vanish. It rots when you linger. Men admire your rise, but they conspire during your reign. When you begin your ascent, they cheer. When you approach your peak, they follow. But once you've reached the summit, once you have no more worlds to conquer, they begin to wait. Not for your next move, but for your decline. No man remains untouchable forever. The moment you stop rising, you begin to rot. Respect calcifies into expectation. Praise turns to familiarity. And what was once feared becomes questioned. Not because your power has changed, but because you have remained too long in view. The peak is not a place to rest. It is the beginning of erosion. I have seen it in courts, in republics, in armies. The general who wins every battle but stays for one more campaign, dies forgotten in defeat. The ruler who reforms the state but lingers to enjoy the fruit, ends hated by those who once worshipped him. The man who shines too long begins to cast no shadow. He becomes mundane, vulnerable to rumor, to ridicule, to resentment. Power breeds envy, and envy does not strike when you are rising. It strikes when you have paused, satisfied. That pause is fatal. Even your allies, once loyal, will begin to measure your relevance. They will whisper that your best moments are behind you. They will wonder aloud what comes next. And as they wonder, they will drift, then challenge, then replace. The peak, if held too long, becomes a stage for your humiliation. You will not fall from greatness. You will fade into disappointment. And nothing humiliates a ruler more than being tolerated. Better to vanish while they still fear your name than remain until they pity your presence. To disappear at your peak is not retreat. It is domination by absence. When you leave at the height of your influence, you deny others the one thing they hunger for most, the satisfaction of watching you decline. You seal your myth at its strongest point, and they are left to chase a shadow they can never match. This is not humility. It is calculation. A man who removes himself at the right moment becomes more powerful than the man who stays to defend his legacy. Because what is unseen cannot be attacked. What is remembered in perfection cannot be compared. In my writings, I praised those who act with foresight. Cesare Borgia, though brought low by fortune, knew when to eliminate his enemies all at once. He did not wait for them to become problems. In the same way, a wise man does not wait for his decline to begin. He leaves before the suspicion ever forms. He disappears when the applause is loudest, and in doing so, he makes that applause eternal. Look to the Romans. Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus gave up supreme power and returned to his field. He ruled, conquered, and vanished. And because he left nothing behind to tarnish him, he was remembered as flawless. The crowd remembers your final image. If you die revered, your name becomes untouchable. But if you remain, they will see the cracks. They will see the repetition, the fatigue, the erosion of presence, and they will whisper what they would never dare say to the man who left at his peak. That you've stayed too long, that your time has passed. To disappear at the summit is to become permanent. To stay is to decay slowly, until the people you once ruled begin to forget why they followed you at all. Withdrawal must never be improvised. It must be designed like a military campaign, calculated, timed, and executed without sentiment. You do not wait until your power is questioned. You leave while their voices still tremble when they speak your name. There are signs, always. The room grows slower to quiet when you enter. The laughter becomes a little too familiar. Your words are repeated, but not with the same awe. Imitators begin to rise. pale reflections of your authority, and the people entertain them. This is not praise. It is erosion in disguise. When the imitation becomes acceptable, the original is already becoming redundant. You must study these moments not with panic, but with precision. When men stop reacting to your silence with caution, when your presence no longer shifts the dynamic of the room, these are your final warnings. Do not cling. Power, once it begins to leak, cannot be sealed. Better to leave with mystery than to remain and explain. And you must never explain your exit. You do not ask for understanding. You vanish. The uncertainty will feed your myth. The silence will make your absence louder than your presence ever was. I have seen princes cling to thrones out of fear. Fear of obscurity, of losing influence, of being forgotten. But the man who disappears strategically is never forgotten. He becomes the model. He becomes the legend. Withdrawal in this sense is not an ending. It is a weapon. It denies your rivals the pleasure of your fall. It denies the public the spectacle of your fading strength. And most of all, it denies time its victory. Legacy is not about what you did last. It is about what you refuse to do next. And the wisest refusal is to remain when you should have vanished. When you disappear at your peak, you do not vanish. You become untouchable. Your name ceases to be a man. It becomes a symbol. Others are measured against it, and none quite reach. You are spoken of with reverence, not in the tone of present relevance, but in the hush reserved for myths. That is what you leave behind. Not the memory of your face, but the weight of your presence. Not your daily acts, but the shape of your absence. It haunts the rooms you once ruled because no one quite fills the silence you left. Those who come after you are never truly free. They inherit comparison, not command. Your image, frozen at the height of mastery, casts a shadow over every successor. If they do more, they seem desperate. If they do less, they seem weak. And that is the brilliance of a strategic disappearance. You stop being a man, and you start being a standard. One that no one else wrote, but everyone must meet. This is how you dominate from exile. How you conquer without returning. How your absence governs more effectively than your daily presence ever could. Even your enemies hesitate. They cannot wound what is not there. They cannot destroy what never fell. They are left to imagine how you would respond, what you would have done, and that imagining binds them. You become not a person, but a question they cannot answer. And the longer you remain silent, the more powerful the memory becomes. You are no longer vulnerable to mistake, to fatigue, to time. You exist only in the minds of others, and there you grow larger, sharper, more invincible. That is what you leave behind when you vanish at your peak. Not a corpse, not a controversy, not a decline, but a legend. And no man, however clever, can kill a legend without first making himself smaller in the attempt. This is your final act of control, not how you ruled, but how and when you vanished.